fair man, and the loss of nature was of great benefit only to the education or to the group. Most of his life was led by his illiterate father, and even though he was a university student, he always kept the key words, which had not yet been done. All obeyed his father, who raised him with great humility. But now it is a good thing to fight against the arrogance of those who are mentally ill, retiring, and the consequences of rapid growth. He was fortunate that Lady Catherine de Bourgh asked if Hunsford's life was in danger, as well as his respect for the high position, and was respected as a supporter, mixed with the most significant ideas for him, his knowledge as an honest man, and his rights as a leader, which made him visible and proud. And, after all, self-confidence and humility. Having a comfortable home and having a good income, wants to get married. And when he tried to meet the Longbourn family, he had a wife. And because he was determined to choose one of the girls, if he saw that it was good and friendly, because they had the same opinion. It was his intention to change, as a reward, for his father's property, and he considered her to be wonderful, full of beauty and decency, and very kind and uninterested in her. There was no change in their schedule until we saw them. Miss Bennet's beautiful face reinforced her vision, and they built her strong views on adults, and he chose the first evening. The next morning he made a change. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning, with Miss Bennet before breakfast, a conversation that began at the Staff House, and automatically fulfilled her expectation that her husband would be found after Longbourn. He issued, with a general smile and encouragement, a warning to the beautiful Jane. He had prepared it. As for her young daughters, she did not accept her request. She did not respond well, but she did not know the discrimination. He had to talk about his eldest daughter. He felt compelled to advertise. He might argue with her soon. Collins just wanted to turn Jane into Elizabeth, and it all ended with Mrs. Bennet burning all of a sudden. Elizabeth, just as Jane looked after her birth and beauty, was her follower. My Bennet hid the sign, and he was sure he could marry 2 daughters soon, and one cannot bear to speak one day before starting another. Lydia never forgot her plan to go to Meryton, all the sisters except Mary, who agreed to go with her, and Mr. Collins was present, at the request of Mr. Bennet, interested in taking him and his library. For Mr. Collins followed him after breakfast, and he will continue to be one of the key figures in the conference. But in fact Mr. Bennet, with a little bit of a hint, is in his home and Hunsford Garden. Mr. Bennet's actions were unfortunate. In his library he always hoped for joy and peace, and though he was ready, as he had told Elizabeth, to face the stupidity and faith of all the other householders, he had a habit of resting. So her house, it is very important to invite Mr. Collins to join his daughters in their journey, and Mr. Collins, because it helped the passengers more than the student, was happy to close the big book, and left. With insults, and people's insults about his brother, it was time for him to get to Meryton. No need to be more careful about that. Their eyes went down the street looking for the police, and there was nothing but good bonnet or fresh meat in the shop window, you remember. But soon all the young men were taken by a young man, whom he had never met before, who was very kind, and he entered the army on the other side. A police major. When Denny returned to London, Lydia approached him and bowed to him. But they were all amazed at the mighty power of God, and were astonished at his understanding and answers. Kitty and Lydia, wanting to know if it was possible, led the way, saying they wanted something in another store, and their 2 masters were meeting in one place. Denny spoke directly to them, asking permission from his friend Wickham to return home yesterday from the city, and happily said that they had received some of the bodies. This is what is needed, but the boy does not want the man raised to make you beautiful all over the world. You appreciate his form, has the best mix, best face, best posture, and best boat. This was followed by a demonstration of confidence, his determination to be friendly and meaningless. And the whole group was still standing and talking the same way, with the sound of horses in their eyes, and Darcy and Bingley were seen riding on the road. The women separated from the group, both approaching and starting a regular trial. Her prophet is Beanley, and most importantly, Miss Bennet. He went to Longbourn, he asked deliberately. Bambo Darcy protected her with a bow, and began to judge not to look at Elizabeth, when he suddenly grabbed her, and Elizabeth saw the faces of the two men looking at her, as an individual. Overall, the results of the meeting were impressive. Everything changes colour. One looks white, the other is red. Wickham, after a while, was anointed with their hats, the greeting of Mr. Darcy that he wished to return. What does it mean? We cannot. It just helps to know in the long run. At the moment, Mr. G. Beanley, but not seeing what was happening, went with his companion. Denny and Wickham went with the girls to Mr. Philip, making a bow, fled in haste to Mrs. Lydia's request to enter, and even Mrs. Phillips cleaned the living room window. Bertha. Phillips was always happy to see his daughter and brother, and they welcomed the two officers because they were not present. And they sought to intimidate them when they came to the house which they did not know, if it was not so. He will see the boy in Mr.'s store. Jones, on the street, told him that he would never again send the job to the Netherlands, because Miss Bennet had already left, if their position had been transferred to Mr. Jane introduced her. He sees her as polite, repeats her over and over again, apologises for interfering, does not know, who cannot resolve the issue, however, he can see his relationship with the woman and tell her. Buffer. Phillips enjoyed the good training, but it was not long before the feeling of his journey was over by shouting and asking others. Among them, however, he told his father-in-law that he already knew, that Denny had taken him to London, and that he had been a lieutenant lawyer in the USA. He looked at her for the last hour, and said as he walked down the street with Mr. the Show with Wickham, Kitty and Lydia continues to work, but unfortunately, no one enters through the window now but a few policemen, who, unlike strangers, are stupid, mislegal in the Union. Wickham went to their men, inviting them in case the Longbourn family arrived in the afternoon. She was welcomed, and Mrs. Phillips thought he had a big lottery game and ate dinner later. The hope of happiness is joy, and it is spiritually shared. Collins also apologised as he left the room, unafraid to be told he did not need to. On the way home, Elizabeth contacted Jane about what she saw happening between them, but even if Jane is equally protective, or both, if she has a problem, she can't explain it better than her sister. Upon his return, Mr. Collins killed Mrs. Bennet, sees how Phillips lives. He was saddened to have never seen such a beautiful woman, but Lady Catherine and her daughter, for he not only acknowledged that it was many things to do, but was more involved in his invitation the next night, though he did not know it. The matter, he said, could be linked to communication, but he found no interest in his life. Until next week.
As near to the bottom as I could. I could move it up. Maybe up to that one. Maybe could move it up an inch or two, but. Right. We don't know what's going to happen.
We haven't got a clue. That's why it's so spontaneous.
Yes, it is. It's spontaneous. It's completely improvised.
It is, absolutely.
Hello.
Right.
That one isn't on, by the way.
Yes, she knows that.
Oh, right, okay.
That's the battery one,
Yeah.
so she takes it from the last knocking, so.
Yes, she does. Yeah. Well, we see. Well, I thought we'd catch up chapter 13 and 14 at some point
Yeah.
because they've already
Gone out.
gone. Yeah, because we didn't have it. But we can catch them up at some point.
Could you not have a Christmas break?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well,
Well, people aren't be watching much. You know, perhaps they are.
Oh, yeah,
Anyway.
they're not going anywhere, are they? So
No, I
anyway,
suppose they're not. No.
so we're on chapter 15.
Look in the mirror, see if my
Oh,
shorts
yes,
okay.
it's where Mrs. Bennett is very cold, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, you have to be Mr. Collins as well now.
Me,
So-
right.
Yeah.
Dad, Mr. Collins, or I,
Well, he's usually a man, but I mean, you can be.
That's right. I mean, he was played by a... Well, no, that's right. So being played by a man, yeah, well, it was quite a different thing, you know. But
That was Emma, yeah.
that was Emma, anyway, yes. Yes, Mr. Collins is normally played by a man, although, you know...
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
if we can
Mr. Collins.
that's one more stuff, huh? Mr. Collins was not a fair man. And the loss of nature was of great benefit only to the education or to the group.
Sorry, yeah,
Yes?
didn't realise you'd started. Can you start again?
Mr.
Some of these come out, so much shorter than the real ones, but I realised that was happening. I know, I've got to stop this. So I've been very careful when I've been translating them now. If any sentences go missing, I put them back in, just retranslate them and then do them again. So it's not going to be shorter than the original now. Because otherwise, I often don't realise, as you translate it, sometimes whole bits of sentences go missing and then more goes missing and you realise it comes out shorter, but sort of you don't quite realise where it's happened unless you go through it carefully. It takes a long time. But then I realised, I thought, oh, well, never mind. That's what it translated, so that's what it translated. But the problem is, when I'm then putting the real one above it, and I realised you can't fit it in. So you can't actually read it. And I decided, oh, that's actually a bit naff, isn't it? So, change that now. So yes, from chapter 14 onwards, I believe I've done that. You should find. You can now read the originals, because they are the same level. If you want to.
Yeah, okay, Wickham has become God. Okay.
I'm in a bit of a hurry. I didn't realise that. How do you think the tape would run out? Oh, well, tape, you know what I mean. So I've been whittling away for the last whatever and it wasn't even recording. I just didn't notice. So it stopped on encouragement, right?
Good old Bambo Darcy, good. Well, Bambo Darcy, whoever he is, protected her with a bow.
Okay. New version of Pride and Prejudice. Upon his return, Mr. Collins killed Mrs. Come on.
Wait, no, not again. When he suddenly grabbed her